Hi, this is Jeff with Mr. Hardwater. This video goes through the details on the assembly and the maintenance of your Blast Kit 1, Blast Kit 2, and the trash can hopper systems, focusing mainly on the brass blast valve. This video is going to show you how to set up the blast valve for its first operation, and also to help you to maintain it and clean it out after you've done a couple different jobs. So the systems all work pretty much the same way. These blast guns connect up to a pressure washer. The water streams through the blast valve, creating suction. The suction then lifts the media from a bucket through the sand stake and through the hose and out the tip. So it's very important to calibrate these systems correctly, and the way to calibrate them is to place a nozzle tip inside the blast valve that's going to match your pressure washer. If you don't do that, you're not going to get the right amount of suction coming through this valve. But if you get the right nozzle tip for your pressure washer, you'll be amazed at how much suction you can really drive through these systems. So once you get your kit, the first thing to do is to take a look at it and see what you have here. First thing I'm going to do is take off the media hose from the media connector, and we'll take this, spin this around, and we'll start taking a look at the brass media valve. Now you notice in this case that I have a side handle. Now the side handles are really pretty important on these devices, because it really gives you the stability that you're going to need when you're blasting. They're really nice because there's a lot of recoil when these things fire off, so you want to have a good steady side handle on here to help steady the gun while you're working. The next thing to notice here is that I have the brass valve here threaded directly onto the lance wand. Now you can run these things with a connector. A lot of times when you buy a pressure washer, they're going to have the quick connect fitting already installed. It'll look something like this, and where this thing is spring loaded, it springs back and you can put a quick connect fitting on there. Now in the kit it does come with a quick connect fitting. These are 1/4 inch, and you can use these to connect right onto the pressure washer. However, I don't really recommend that because there's a lot of pressure going through these blast heads, and you can lose a lot of pressure in the system because of the ball bearings and the springs. So in my opinion, it's a lot better to simply unthread the quick connect from your lance and to attach the brass blast valve directly onto the lance. The next thing to notice is that when you have the brass blast valve like this, inside the lance tip there's a nut in there, and there's also the nozzle that you're going to place to calibrate your machine. So to take this nut out, what you do is you'll take the Allen wrench. It's a 7mm Allen wrench. You put it inside and you start to unscrew the nut. Once the nut is unscrewed, if you look down into the hole here, you'll see the silver part of the nozzle tip. And the nozzle tips are really quite small, and there's a rubber seal on them to help maintain, to help avoid any kind of a pressure leak in there. So if you want to change these things out before you get started to calibrate your system, instead of digging it out from this side and trying to get it out, the way to do it is to basically unscrew the nozzle like this, set this aside, and you can take any kind of a screwdriver or a pin or anything, and you can run it down into the hole here, and you can just tap it right out. There you go. And so once you tap this out, you can look directly through this, and there's really no nozzle in there whatsoever. And this is basically a gutted valve system right here. So what we're going to do now is simply take a different nozzle tip like this. What you're going to do is make sure that the rubber seal is facing in towards the blast valve, you're going to drop it in there like so, and it drops down in there. What you can do is you can take a screwdriver and just tap it in to make sure it's fully seated. Then take the nut and the Allen wrench and twist it down to lock it in place. Now you don't really need to over tighten these things, but you do need to set them in there enough to where that rubber seal is flush against the valve body here. Once you do that, you're ready to go, and you're ready to replace the nozzle cone. One thing to take a note of though in these nozzle cones is that the metal inside these nozzle cones is actually tungsten steel, and they're that's a very strong metal, and it's great for when you're doing sandblasting and other types of very strong medias. The good thing for us is that when you're using the Max Strip Kaiserite medias and the soda medias, etc., they're not that abrasive, so it's going to take a long time before you wear out this nozzle cone. So once you get the cone ready like this, just assemble it by threading it together like so. You can tighten this up and you're good to go. Now that is basically how you install the nozzle tips and get the system ready for operation.